What is going on, guys? Welcome to Greggles TV. In this video, we're going to compare the Galaxy S23 Ultra versus the Galaxy Z Fold 4, and we're going to decide which one is the better phone for me, for you, for everyone, and we're going to compare them in a bunch of different categories and ways. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. I have two of my favorite phones right now. I have the Galaxy Z Fold 4 on the left, and on the right I have the Galaxy S23 Ultra. Now both of these phones are a little bit different in terms of what Samsung has to offer. This is a regular traditional slab phone, and then this is a folding phone. So you have this huge display on the inside, and when you close it up, you have this outside display that is tall and skinny, and almost the same size as a regular phone. It's a little bit thinner and a little bit shorter than the S23 Ultra. And I wanted to go through and compare some things such as the speakers, the cameras, the overall look of these phones, show you some of the software, and just I'll tell you which one I think is better for most people and which one I prefer myself. So without further ado, let's jump into this video. So first of all, let's talk about performance, because performance on here is different, and it's one of the bigger things, at least, you know, right off the bat, besides just the look of these phones. Internally, performance is different, especially on a benchmark level. So I'm gonna open up Geekbench. All right, so here's the two scores. You get 1750, 1951. Obviously the S23 Ultra beat it by a fairly sizable margin in the single core, and then in the multi-core score, it really increases, 5041 versus 4053. Now, I do want to mention, I mentioned this on almost everything, don't get lost in the benchmarks. Benchmarks are great for, you know, gaming, video editing, things like that, but it doesn't mean that this 8 Gen 1 processor in the Z Fold 4 is a slouch. It runs really well. It has games that run really well. But in day-to-day, both are smooth. I would say that the Z Fold 4 is a little less smooth than the S23 Ultra. I mean, it's just really the animations. It's nothing that Samsung couldn't already fix if they wanted to. I don't see why they couldn't already. It's definitely something, obviously, that they could do, but ultimately, this phone just feels a little bit smoother for sure. So if you want the ultimate smoothest, best performing phone that Samsung has to offer, you have to go with the S23 Ultra. Next, what about looks? Now, holding these in your hand, this is pretty easy to hold in your hand. It's got a flatter display than it has in the past, and just holding it in your hand, you know, like I said, it's not too hard. My hands are pretty small, but it's not that difficult. This is obviously a two-handed phone. You can hold it like this, but ultimately it is a two-handed phone, especially when it's open for the most part. When you close it up, it's definitely a one-handed phone, but it's kind of thick. So just hand holding, you know, if you're not using a phone grip of any sort, which I always use a phone grip such as a pop socket or love handle or something like that, no matter which phone it is. And when you have a love handle, both of them are definitely closer into what you could respectfully compare them against as a one-hand holding device. But if you're not using that, you're just holding these in your hands, S23 Ultra for sure is easier to hold than the Z Fold 4 in terms of comfort. Now, looks of these phones, here you go. Pretty similar on the back with the cameras, at least the way they look for the most part. The S23 Ultra is thinner, but when it comes down to it, and you get the under-screen camera here, which you don't on here. You can see the camera on top, but on the outside of the Z Fold 4, you can see the camera. But in terms of looks, obviously, I personally just like sleekness, and they're both very similar in a lot of ways, but I'd give it to the S23 Ultra. But for me, I want a screen with a huge display, and the Z Fold 4 does that for me. Now let's talk about that display. The S23 Ultra is a brighter display. It goes up to 1750 nits of brightness, so it'll be a little bit better to view outdoors than the Z Fold 4, but the Z Fold 4 did increase its brightness over the last couple of years versus its predecessors in the same line of phone. And also, I should mention that the S23 Ultra has a higher resolution. It's a 2K plus resolution. This almost gets to about 2K. But you know, in terms of the look of the display, they're very close, but ultimately I give it to the S23 Ultra, looking better overall on here. So if you want the best looking, brightest display Samsung has to offer, you're definitely gonna wanna go with the S23 Ultra. But again, for me, I love having a huge display for multitasking, video watching, all of that stuff. So let me bring up a video first. Now here's the YouTube page. You can see everything's just bigger, fatter, easier to see on the Z Fold 4. So here's what videos look like if you're just looking at them like this. And you can see it so much easier on the Z Fold 4. And then when you turn it this way, here it is, a full display. Before I even pinch in, it gets a little bit closer, but still, I would rather watch it on the Z Fold 4. It's just bigger. When you pinch in, there it is, just pinched in on a regular part to it. I don't know why you wouldn't want to watch videos and things like that on the bigger display, such as the Z Fold 4, for the win on that. So for display wise, especially on this size, the big display, I would personally choose the Z Fold 4. Here's a website. This is 9to5 Google's website. Again, easier to see, at least for me, and you can see more of it. You can see it stops from exclusives to Android. You can see exclusives all the way to Workspace for the menu system. And then if you're just reading an article, which one is easier to see? You can see they're both fairly easy to read. You can also zoom in on both if you wanted to. You can turn this one sideways and potentially see it a little bit better, same as this one, but you're gonna get cut off on the top parts of the article. So it really depends what you're most comfortable with. For me, I love having like this tablet-like experience. I want to mention though, obviously with the display, some people are going to point it out, oh, you don't have a indent in the display like you do on the Z Fold 4. You get used to this, so don't be concerned with that, but could be a turning point of why you wouldn't want this Z Fold 4. Here's what the keyboards look like if you're curious. All right, so let's play some music here. I have both up to their max volumes just to show you real quick. Let's try this first one. Man, that's pretty close actually. A lot closer than I thought. I thought the S23 Ultra was gonna run away with it, but just listening to these side by side, it's actually pretty difficult to pick a winner based off this song. Well, you know what? The Z Fold, the S23 Ultra actually sounds a little bit louder when I just compared them that one last time, and a little bit more punchier. So for this song, I'd give the win to the S23 Ultra. Yeah, it's very, very close again, but I'd give the edge to the S23 Ultra. So best speakers, I'm gonna have to go S23 Ultra. If you're an S Pen person, one of the great things about the S23 Ultra is that the S Pen is housed underneath the phone at the bottom of it. So it's really great, it goes right in, you don't have to worry about it. Whereas if you use the S Pen on the Z Fold 4, you're gonna have to get a case and house it on the back or in the spine somewhere. But ultimately, there's no place to house it at the bottom or anything like that. Other big thing is, and this isn't a huge deal to me, but if you want the fastest charging, S23 Ultra wins, 45 watts versus the fastest on the Z Fold 4 is 25 watts, but they're very, very close in terms of overall charging speed when you compare them, so don't breathe too much weight into that. What about cameras on here? So I'm not gonna test this inside camera, it's god awful, but I will test the cameras on here, the front cameras, and then I'll also test them on the back. I'll take some photos, some videos, and you can see. But ultimately, one of the bigger things on here is that this has a 200 megapixel camera, this has a 50 megapixel camera, this can go 100x zoom, this can only go 30x zoom, but both of them can capture some really cool shots overall. Here is portrait video on the Z Fold 4 and S23 Ultra, direct sunlight. I'm gonna sneeze in a second if I keep looking at the sun, but this is what it looks like. What do you guys think? Looks good, bad? Which one looks better? I feel like just looking at this, I feel like the Z Fold S23 Ultra is doing a better job, but I want to look at it on the big screen. What do you guys think? This is just regular video right here on the front-facing camera of the S23 Ultra and Z Fold 4. Holding them kind of far away. Which one looks better, sounds better? I'm outdoors. Which one's handling the sun better? It looks like the S23 Ultra is actually cropped in a little bit more, which is kind of interesting. I could be wrong though, but I'll see when I look at the video. What do you guys think? Here we go with the back main cameras, and I'll end up switching between a bunch of these. I'm gonna shoot these right in the, put these right in the sun, see what they do with the sun, if they block it out or not. I'm gonna go to ultra wide. There's a little ultra wide, and this, all these clips you're watching are recorded at 4K 30. That's ultra wide. Go back to main, 3x. Go back to main. What do you guys think? Point it at my shoes, point it up. Let's see, I'm gonna turn these around in just a moment. Here we go. All right, what do you guys think? Which one looks better and sounds better versus these two phones? What about fingerprint? So I really love what the fingerprint sensor is on the Z Fold 4. It's on the side here, it works great, but I have to admit, this isn't bad actually at all either. I don't have to really put a lot of pressure like I had to in previous years. It works very, very excellent, but still I like it on the side here, but both of them are very, very accurate. So I'd give the win to the Z Fold 4 because I like the fingerprint sensor as doubling up as the power button. But yeah, it's really, that's preference at that point. So after testing both of these phones, I'm still gonna be keeping as my main phone the Z Fold 4. I am a fold person for me personally, and the reasons being is I need a gigantic, big display to just consume. It really encapsulates everything I love about big phones because it has this huge display for gaming, for videos, for web, for pictures, you know, and it's an eye catcher. It's really, really an eye-catching phone. It's really, really cool device, and that's really why I love it for all those reasons. The better overall phone is definitely the S23 Ultra. It's better performance, it's got better cameras, has a better display. It is probably not gonna break as easy as a Z Fold 4. It's just a better overall phone, basically in every single category. I think about this for everybody. What's the phone you should choose? It really depends on what experience you're looking for. If you want something completely new and you've never had a folding phone, definitely get the Z Fold 4. If you want the old tried and true method, you don't have to worry about anything and you just want the same thing, definitely get the S23 Ultra. For most people, the S23 Ultra is probably the better choice. It's a little less expensive. It's more traditional to what you're used to. But if you want something more exciting and different, get the Z Fold 4 at that. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And I want to know your opinion. Which do you think is the better phone and why? Have a great day. We'll see you down the road. Peace.